So we're going to look at solving some one-step and two-step equations, just a few examples to go through with you here. So first example we've got here is x plus 7 equals 12, and this is the working that you should show for each of your questions. So we've got x plus 7 equals 12. We start out by writing the equation. Now if I think about what I want to do, I want to do the inverse operation. I want to try and get x by itself. Because essentially what I've got here is if I look at trying to draw it as a diagram, I've got x plus 7. So I've got 7 boxes here. 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is equal to 12 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is what I've got, and each of these boxes is equal to 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I've got here x, some number, plus 7 boxes, plus 7 ones, and that equals 12. If I can take away from this side, take away from 7, take away 7 of those boxes. If I do the same to the other side, it's going to be balanced. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've taken away 7 boxes from both sides. Got to think that it's like having a set of scales. Set of scales that are balanced. Okay. If you take away something from one side, that makes the other side heavier. Okay. So what you want to make sure is you want to do the same thing to both sides. Because if you take one from both sides, and then another one from both sides, then you'll eventually get, it'll stay balanced the whole way through. So what have I actually done? Well, I've taken away 7 from this side, and I've taken away 7 from this side. You can see that in the equation, I've got here x plus 7. So taking away 7 is the inverse operation, it's the opposite of adding 7. So I'm going to show off to the side here that I'm taking away 7 from both sides. I'm left with x equals 5. Took away 7 from the x plus 7, just left with x. Took away 7 from the 12, and I get 5. What I should do is substitute it back in and make sure it makes sense. Okay, so underneath that, I can go 5 plus 7 equals 12, tick. Okay, I can give myself a bit of a check. And what I've done there is I've taken my answer for x, 5, and I've substituted in here for x. Looking at the next question, all right, I've got x minus 9 equals 3. So I've got x minus 9 equals 3. I need to write down the equation to start with, okay, to show what I'm starting with. Now, if the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of subtracting is adding. Okay, so I've taken away 9. If I add 9 back on, then I'll just be left with x. Okay, so if I add 9 back onto both sides, x take 9 plus 9, I'm just going to be left with x. 3 plus 9 is 12. So I'm left with x equals 12. If I check underneath that, I'm going to go and substitute. I'm going to take my x equals 12. I'm going to put that back in there. Okay, so I'm going to make that x 12. All right, so I've got 12 minus 9 equals 3. Tick, that makes sense. Okay, I've checked my answer. Next question, I've got to solve 3x equals 12. Now here, I've got 3 lots of x. If I was to draw a diagram of what this actually looks like, it means I've got 3 x's. X, x, x. And that is equal to 12. So it's equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. With each of these boxes being 1. Okay? Each of these boxes is equal to 1. So because I've got 3 x's, if I divide this up, divide it by 3, do the same thing to the other side, divide it by 3, then I can see what's in each one. So each x is going to be equal to 4, all right, because I've divided by 3. Okay, so I'm going to show what I'm doing to both sides. I'm going to divide by 3. 3x divided by 3 is just x. Another way to show that and think about that is if I've got 3x, divide that by 3, the 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm just left with 1x. And that 1x, we can just say that's x. Okay? Mathematicians are lazy, we don't want to write more than we need to. So back over to our original problem over here. We've gone the 3x, divided by 3 to get x. I'm going to do the same to this side as well. So I'm going to do 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Okay? And I can check my answer. Once again, I always check my answer. 3 times, and I'm substituting in. So I'm taking my x equals 4 and putting it in for the x. So that's going to be 3 times 4. 3 times 4 equals 12. Tick. That makes sense. Cool. Next one here, we've got x divided by 4 equals 20. Write down the problem. X divided by 4 equals 20. It means I've taken some number, divided it into 4, and that equals 20. Okay? X divided by 4 equals 20. So if I want to look at it visually, that means I've got some value here, x. Okay? X is this whole big long thing here. Okay? That's x. And I've divided it into 4 bits. And each one of those bits is x over 4. Because it's a quarter. It's a quarter of that x. I know that that is 20. Okay, x over 4 is 20. So that means if I multiply that by 4, so I've got one of the x over 4, another of the x over 4, another, I've got 4 of them. If I multiply just the one thing by 4 times by 4, I get the whole thing. The whole thing. That'll be equal to the whole thing. So x over 4 times 4 is going to be x. It's going to be one lot of x. It's going to be the whole lot of x. It's like I've got a pizza and it's cut into 4 bits. I know each bit, it's $5 a slice. Okay. If I multiply that by 4, I get the whole pizza. Okay. Multiply the amount per each slice. So that's what I'm going to do to both sides. If multiplying is the opposite of, if dividing is the opposite of multiplying, then multiplying is the inverse, the opposite of dividing. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do to both sides. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4, keep it balanced, keep it the same. X over 4 times 4 is x. 20 times 4 is 80. Okay, once again, I can check myself. Okay, take this value here, put it in here. So I get 80 divided by 4. Yep, that equals 20. Tick. Now we're looking at two-step equations. Here we're trying to simplify as we go. Okay, so first problem we've got here is 4x plus 5 equals 17. That means I've got 4 x's, 2, 3, 4, 4 x's. And that is equal to 5. I'm not going to do the individual 5s. Okay, I'm just going to say I've got 5 here. Okay, a bigger box of 5, or a different size box of 5, and that equals a different size box of 17. Okay, so firstly what I want to do is I want to simplify it one step at a time. Okay, if I divide by 4, which is what some people do, divide by 4, means I've got to divide both sides by 4. Means I've got to divide the 5 by 4 as well. I don't want to do that. Okay, this 5 is really annoying me. I want to get rid of it. Okay, I want to get rid of it. So how am I going to get rid of it? I've added 5 on here. I better take it away. So if I take away 5 from both sides, that's going to be my first step. So I'm developing a plan in my head. And that will make it simpler. Because if I take away 5 from both sides, let's actually do that over here. Take away 5 from both sides. Take away 5 from this side, I'm just going to be left with the 4x. Because I've taken the 5 away. 17, take away 5, I'm going to be left with 12. And now I can see, okay, this is a little bit simpler now. This is a one step. I'm one step away from the solution. So now I've got my 4x's. Okay, I've got my 4x's, and that is equal to 12. Well, this one seems pretty easy, because if I divide it by 4, and divide this by 4, I'm going to have 3 in each box, 3, 3, 3. So that means each of my x's is going to be 3. So let's do that on this side. I'm going to divide by 4. 4x divided by 4 will just be with x. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Once again, go back and check your answer. Okay, so I've got 4 times, taking my 3, putting it back in here for x, 4 times 3 equals, 4 times 3 plus 5 equals 17. Does it? Well, let's have a look. This is the same as 12 plus 5. And 12 plus 5 is equal to 17. 17 equals 17. Tick. We've checked our answer. Last example for you now, okay? And I'm speeding up, but I'm trying to get through all of these really quickly. So here we've got x over 5 minus 3 equals 4. We write down the question. Every time we write down the question, I need to counteract things, okay? So I need to do the opposite. If I've got that take away 3 there. If I add 3, that goes away, okay? Because I've counteracted it. If I take away 3 and then add 3, it's the same as 0, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Add 3 to both sides. So if I add 3, I'm left with x over 5 on this side, left with 7 on this side. Okay, now I've got a number here, some number, and I divide it by 5 and I get 7. If I multiply by 5, that will counteract, on both sides, that will counteract that x over 5. I'll be left with just x, and that equals 35.